Let's talk iPhone 12 and why I, as an Android user, might be finally making the switch to iOS. Firstly, a bit of background. Now, my last two iPhones were the iPhone 4 in 2010 and the iPhone 6S, which I had for a couple of months in 2016. Other than those two phones, I've been using an Android phone all these years, and for the last 4 years, I've not moved from Android. But I think this year might be the time for me to switch over to iOS with the iPhone 12. And if you stay around to the end of the video, I'll be telling you why. There's been so many leaks over the last few months, from people like John Prosser of Front Page Tech, Max Weinbach, and Everything Apple Pro. And I'll put a link to all their channels and pages in the description below. Now let's get into those juicy iPhone 12 leaks. So there'll be 4 models, but before we get into the models in depth, let's talk about the basic design. The design of the iPhone has been the same for 3 years now, with the iPhone 10, the iPhone XS and the iPhone 11 all keeping the same design with a big notch, which I've not been a fan of. This year it's rumoured that Apple are moving towards a more iPhone 4-esque design, a lot more squared off, and basically a small iPad Pro, which I like the look of. A smaller notch is also rumoured, with the earpiece moving up to the bezel at the top and the Face ID components being squished into a smaller notch at the top. Anything to make that thing smaller, please. I don't like the notch, although it can never be as bad as the Pixel 3 XL. Google really messed up there. Apple is sticking with the flat displays and avoiding curved edges to the displays, which is a great thing because flat displays are much easier to use on mobile devices and the curves are just there to make it look good. So here we go. On your screen now you'll see all 4 iPhone 12 models. The iPhone 12, the 12 Max, the 12 Pro and the 12 Pro Max. All the details are there, pricing, screens, who they're made by, the RAM. The standouts for me are that all iPhones are using OLED displays this year, no more LCD, which means deeper blacks, brighter colours, and it's actually better for battery life. If you don't know what an OLED display is compared to an LCD display, here's a video by Rene Ritchie, which goes really in depth on the difference between OLED and LCD, and he's also got a really good iPhone 12 playlist where he goes in depth on different areas of the iPhone 12, which I really recommend checking out. You might have seen that on the Pro models, there is ProMotion, 120Hz refresh rate on an iPhone. Finally, Apple are bringing high refresh rates to their iPhones. ProMotion displays are exactly what Apple have on the iPad Pros. Both iPad Pro 2018 and 2020 have the ProMotion high refresh rate display. The display refresh rate will toggle up and down depending on what's on the screen. It could pop to 120Hz for scrolling, for example, but it could easily drop down the refresh rate when watching a video on YouTube. ProMotion isn't confirmed yet. This is a major selling point for me, but ProMotion isn't confirmed yet. And this is because it takes a hit on battery life, and Apple want to try and get the balance between battery life and their display. If they can't quite get that balance right and it affects battery life too much, they'll scrap it and we'll be stuck with 60Hz for another year. It's rumoured that iPhone 12 Pro and Pro Max will have 3 cameras, the normal wide lens, the ultra wide lens and the telephoto lens. So it's the same basic setup as the 11 Pro and the 11 Pro Max of last year, with improved autofocus, improved HDR and better low light photography. As well as a LiDAR scanner, which is used for depth information and scanning the environment. But I feel like the hardware there is ahead of the software. Listen, it's no secret that Apple have the best video on mobile. When it comes to photography, Google have been up there with them, possibly just pipping them at the top in terms of still photography, although Google still don't have an ultra wide. But if I had to recommend one phone to do it all in terms of videos and photos, it would definitely be the iPhone 11 Pro line with the telephoto, ultra wide and normal wide, and their video capabilities. It's unmatched right now, and it looks like they're going to improve that even further with the iPhone 12. The iPhone 12 will come with the A14, which will be no slouch. The A13 Bionic is already a beast of a chip, and I'm sure this will be the fastest iPhone ever. But that's not a surprise, because every year it's the fastest iPhone ever. What is a surprise is that this year iPhones are going 5G. Now, At first, this is surprising because Apple aren't usually the first to jump onto a technology. But in terms of longevity and people buying an iPhone this year, hoping it will last them 4 or 5 years, this is definitely the right way to go for Apple. And it's great for those looking to future-proof their device. Ports. Ports? Yeah, ports. Usually not very interesting, but I think on iPhones it's quite interesting. So the iPhone has had a lightning cable for years. The lightning adapter stuck around for many years. And in the tech community, we've been hoping and wishing that they would go to USB-C, as they have done on the iPad Pros. USB-C has been introduced in MacBooks years ago, and we've been waiting for this port to be introduced into their iPhones, and they've been holding off. But there's a reason for that. They're going portless instead. Yep, portless. If you remember, it took courage for Apple to remove the headphone jack, and now it looks like they're going to be even more courageous, because it's rumoured that on the iPhone 13, yes, the iPhone 13, 18 months away, they're going portless. They will have a Magic connector, like the one that connects the iPad Pro to the Magic Keyboard, and that will do everything in terms of charging and data transfer, and that means that the phone can become more waterproof, it can become dustproof, they can maybe get more space inside for larger batteries and extra technology that they want to put in their phones. So yeah, Apple are never going to produce an iPhone with USB-C. They're taking out all ports. With what's going on in the world, it's likely that we'll see an iPhone 12 release date pushed back slightly. It's rumoured that we're going to have an October announcement and a November release date, which is slightly later than the September release date that we normally have with the iPhone event. On to why I might be switching to iOS. There's a few reasons. Firstly, ProMotion displays. I think high refresh rate displays improve the experience of a mobile device. My mobile phone is the one I use more than anything, and high refresh rate displays make the experience even more enjoyable. It's a major selling point for me, especially after having the OnePlus 7 Pro, the Pixel 4 XL, and recently the OnePlus 8 Pro. If iPhones go to 120Hz refresh rate, I'll definitely consider them, but if they stick at 60Hz, I will not consider an iPhone in 2020. I also recently got an iPad Pro with Magic Keyboard, and this thing has become my main device, my main computing device. I don't use my MacBook Pro anymore. I do everything on this thing. The keyboard's incredible, the iPad's incredible. I've done a video on the Magic Keyboard. If you want to check that out, I'll leave a link above. The ecosystem is so tempting. The way that iPads and iPhones work together, the ease of transferring data across from one to the other, and all your devices syncing up. I think it's brilliant what Apple do on that side. Yes, it can get people tied in, and with the rumoured AirTags coming out, AirPods, all these extra things that you can buy on top, that's my one concern, is that I might get stuck in the walled garden of Apple and never be able to get out, which I quite like the freedom of at the moment, jumping between Android and iOS. Curiosity. I'm very curious what the switch from Android to iOS in 2020 would do for me. And I want to see if I could go back to iOS fully and have all the benefits that come with it. What's holding me back from switching? Why have I not moved over already? I've already mentioned high refresh rate. I think it's great on mobile devices. Full screen displays. So on my OnePlus 7 Pro, we have a full screen display. Check out that wallpaper from SpaceX, what the hell. Differences in hardware. You can get pop-up cameras, you can get hole punch cameras, you can get edge-to-edge displays, you can get phones with incredible speakers. There's so much hardware variation on the Android side, and I actually prefer the operating system currently of Android compared to iOS. I've always thought that all iPhones look exactly the same. It's been in my head the whole time. A grid of icons that you can't move around, you can't change thanks to iOS, they just stick it where you think you want it. Rubbish and boring, and all iPhones seem to look the same in my head. So this year could be the year where I make the switch over, but iOS is going to be a massive factor as to whether I can get on with it or whether I'll be coming back to Android to get all that customization and customizability back. But hey, I guess the thing about iPhones is they just work, right? Let's see. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned to see if I actually make the switch over and if I enjoy it or if I don't get on with it and if I switch back. And I'll see you in the next one. might be finally making the switch to iOS. From people like John Prosser of Front Page